Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Lee, and I'm the South Central Region Manager, and I want to welcome you to our first Mini Sun Regional Meeting. We are excited to be here. I'm so excited. I've got fire coming out of my head. If you can see me on screen talking right now, it's actually not coming out of my head, but I always like to do that to start off a meeting. So welcome. Like I said, we're excited to share some great information this morning from several of our team members. Just a little housekeeping. We're going to mute all the users. We love the conversation, the dialogue that's going on. For many of us, we haven't seen each other in quite some time, but we're going to mute all of you as we go through the presentations. But we're going to have some polling questions as we go through the morning, just to kind of get some immediate feedback and results from you. And then if you have questions throughout the presentation, please go ahead and place them in the chat box as we go through. And at the end of the meeting, we're going to have a Q&A time set aside to answer those questions, okay? So without further ado, let's get started with one of our first polling questions. And it's really relevant to what's going on with this right now. And we really need to know where you are with this question. So please take a little moment, read the question, and let us know what is your toilet paper inventory status at this point. I'll give it a few more seconds here for us to get some results in. Denise Dyer is manning the polls today. And when she sees we've got a representative example, she'll give us the results.
Pam Donadio from Lone Star College, Houston, Texas. I'm not on the computer. I'm on my cell phone, so I can't answer. I don't see any of your questions. So it's not that I'm not answering or not that I'm not here, but I just can't participate in this. Just letting you guys know. Thanks.
Brian, you're muted.
So it's funny, Denise likes to mute me on a regular occasion, and she chose to do so today while I was trying to speak. So the poll results have already disappeared off the screen, but it looks like everybody's TP status is okay. There's only a few of you that have come into what we would call a situation. Please reach out to your client executive at the conclusion of the meeting, and we'll see if we can help resolve those few of you that still have a situation at this moment. So anyway, I really appreciate everybody joining the call today. It's going to be a great call, and I would like to turn it over now to Kelly McKeever. He is our Virtual Education and Content Development Specialist. Kelly?
Thanks, Brian, and good morning all, and stand by while I share a screen, and hopefully you can see what I'm going to try to show you here. And Brian, I'm going to come back and ask you, make sure that I've got the appropriate, here we go, give this a try. So what we should be seeing is a slide at the moment. Brian, you confirm for me?
I'm seeing a slide, and it's got, it starts off with thanking our healthcare workers.
Okay, and that's exactly where I'd like to start. So thank you, Brian, for the help here, folks. So, and again, at any time, please feel free to turn in any of your questions on the chat and whatnot. But the first thing that I'd like to do is just, again, extend a very heartfelt thank you to all of you that are out there on the front lines with this, fighting the COVID-19. And I know from experience here that we're talking to a group of folks that are still active in the fight with this, but also obviously across the board and professional educators, or with professional educators that are trying to produce the next line of folks to step out in all of this as well. So once again, before I get started with this, thank you for all of your efforts. We see you, and we completely understand our role in this process, as well as to make sure that you have the tools that you need to get your jobs done in order to support the efforts as we go. So again, my function here is going to be kind of twofold. And first, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the virtual training program that Laerdal has developed for the circumstance, not only just for the COVID-19 circumstance, but essentially, we understand the need for virtual training across the board because of the following elements that you're seeing up here. We know that it's convenient. We know that your schedules are tight. We know that we need to try to better fit those schedules based on a busy world and such. So what we'd like to tell you in terms of our convenience and scheduling, our typical courses that we do offer are really in about 2-hour blocks. And this should allow for more preferred dates, time slots, and things that just kind of fit your schedule. However, we're willing to work with you and willing to make these things flexible as well. If you need more time or a larger block or less time, more frequent, we're here to make sure that we serve you with this. So we also know that in terms of a practical classroom setting, practicality obviously is in the eye of the beholder. If we're sitting in front of a pool delivering our lectures, as I saw a little bit before, in a garage, wherever this happens to be, storage sheds, wherever it actually can occur, you have a Wi-Fi signal, you have a laptop, tablet, phone, we can get there. So we understand that today's learning environment demands flexibility. So we want to make sure that we cater to those as best we possibly can. Again, on demand, what you want when you want it. So I'm going to splash up a screen here in just a minute that shows the current offerings that we do have. But I want you to kind of keep one thing in mind, that most of the training and education that we at Laerdal do with customers, either face-to-face, virtually, or however we can get this across, is really a customized type of an agreement. We know that simulation is not a new concept to the world and to instructors at large. And so we know that you have unique demands. And just because we kind of entitle something the way that we do doesn't mean we can't make it a little bit more flexible in terms of your specific needs as well. So we want to make sure that you get what you want when you want it. We understand that the virtual training also, in terms of efficiency, lends well to a blended approach. Virtual training can't answer it all, and we understand that as well. So with that, we want to make sure that we pick off the parts that lend well to virtual training and, again, reschedule when we possibly can to those elements that don't lend well to virtual training. Again, you all know the cornerstone of simulation is the hands-on approach, and this is what we're essentially trying to do with our learners, to give them experience when they step into the simulation lab. So we know that some of the virtual elements just don't quite help us with the hands-on. So we do have other options as well. So we know software demonstrations, navigation of our operation platforms like Leap and SimPad, scenario programming, things of that nature can be done virtually. So again, we just want to make sure that that we're here for you, because you never know when you might be ordered to shelter in place, and we want to remain sensitive to that. So what we've got here in front of you as well is just basically our delivery platforms and how we go about doing this. And those of you who have ever purchased or scheduled training from Laerdal, it basically is the same thing. It's the same way at this point in time. So if you're interested in virtual training, all you need to do is get a hold of your account executive or your client executive, and they can foster the scheduling, the training, and essentially what it is that we have in terms of the available courses. So when you take a look up to the upper right, these are the things we've actually developed for our for virtual training at the moment. The first one called Simulator Orientation. This is a 2-hour block to get you up and running in terms of any simulator that you do have out there. So we're going to go through feature sets on, say, a SimMan 3G. Then we'll show you how to connect that to the laptop, and then take some time through the laptop to be able to control the mannequin as well. So at least to get you up, get you running, again, predominantly from a manual mode on the fly type of a mechanism, but it's just designed to get you moving. We also have more in-depth and detailed types of training centered around the navigation of SimPad, the navigation of the Leap platform, as I mentioned before. One of the elements that people have asked us to do is the simulation strategies, which is really all about organizing your information, organizing platforms, organizing scenarios, themes, and then your simulation area, so that you can prepare, so that you can actually run your own simulations with your group. So we talk a little bit about in terms of preparing the mannequin, preparing the simulation site. We talk a little bit about objectives for those of you who may need a discussion with that. And again, we can omit any of those elements as well. And then finally, at the end of this discussion, we give you lots and lots of the most predominant debriefing tools that are out there today. So that's simulation strategies. And then, of course, once we step down into some of the programming mechanisms, we're prepared at this point to deliver a 2-hour creating themes for your SimPad course as well. So just the elements that we do have created at the moment. And again, if you're interested in these things, just contact your client exec or your account executive, and they can kind of help foster you through the trail. Other things that we've kind of developed in the virtual sense, due to the COVID-19 realities. Again, kind of a restatement that we know you need flexibility to get some sort of training on the books as opposed to the on-site principles. So what we're trying to do is we're also trying to offer folks the ability to basically turn in your on-site training and trade it in for 8 hours of virtual training. And like I said, we try to break that up into 2-hour blocks. We work with you to customize the agenda to meet your expectations and make sure that we meet what it is your needs happen to be. So all the things that are out there in terms of an on-site training actually can be transposed or converted into a virtual training. Okay, so once again, we have these on the docket daily, and they can be organized to your schedule. Once we find an opening and whatnot, we can get an educator essentially to you virtually. So once again, just contact your client exec, your account executive for greater detail in that respect. So here's some of the elements, or these are some of the examples of courses that we've actually converted from an on-site philosophy into the virtual training as well. So again, the Getting Started courses, which is typically what Karen and myself are out in the field performing. These are typically a one-day, just kind of orienting yourself to the mannequin, its operations, and how to prepare it, clean it, maintain it, so on and so forth. We can do that reasonably well through a virtual means. All the rest of the teaching courses that we do have with Scenarios, Leap, and SimPad itself, refresher courses, scenario programming, again, making sure that we adhere to the customized training philosophy, because again, folks have different needs and we understand that. We want to cater to that. So just to kind of let you know what this all does, what this all looks like, this is me sitting at my desk, and it could be just this morning with me as well, but welcome to Laerdal, Montana. The broadcast that I'm actually producing today is out of my small sim lab, and you can see that I've got a couple of mannequins here and some cameras that I can move around with, and I do have a whole host of other mannequins that are buried under those tables and in a storage shed at my home. But this is where the magic happens in terms of delivering virtual training to you. So just to let you know, we have a fully functional remote simulator lab buried in Dillon, Montana, and we're ready to come to the site wherever you happen to be. Okay, so also just to let you know, fully functional environment. Again, you can kind of see the Leap platform with the patient monitor in the background, 2 camera views, a sim capture system for video debriefing, and of course down at my feet, my luxurious dog bed. And today my 16-year-old beagle is surreptitiously missing. She's taking a nap with mom back at the house, but she's usually controlling elements from my feet there. So it does come with a luxurious dog bed. So things that are on the docket for us in terms of building, in response to comments from customers. Again, I talked about creating themes for SimPad, but we want to be able to create themes for Leap, and we're actively developing curricula to do that. Sim Designer as well for creating scenarios for your Leap platform, your SimPad. Pardon me. Sim Capture administrative overviews, the features and functions of mannequins. I already talked a little bit about that. We're referring to that as orientation 2 and fill in the blank. SimMan 3G, nursing and simulator, whatever it happens to be. And we already have that curriculum developed, and as well as the customized virtual instruction as well. So my second function here is basically going to kind of show you or to illustrate essentially how fast we can move and how fast we need to move sometimes in terms of building simulations for various reasons. And I don't think any of this is more poignantly hits home in the current climate and helping us all prepare for the COVID-19 circumstance. So what we'd had to do in terms of Laerdal is basically approach the COVID-19 from 3 different perspectives. And the first one was our job, my job specifically, to help prepare for screening, for bringing in patients, and how we would screen for the virus, and in terms of preparing to treat that patient in our clinical sites. So the donning and the doffing, and also assessment techniques and so on and so forth. So we prepared a series of scenario files and theme files for both your SimPad and your LEAP. These are free to the public and they are on our COVID-19 resource page. And all you have to do is contact us and we'll make sure that you have those as well. And you're more than welcome to use them any way that you see fit. But again, in order to move on these things, we need something to work from. We just can't develop these off the top of our head because that's not the purpose of Laerdal. Laerdal is designed to take information that is out there, produce the information that you do need to implement it into your processes and into your educational systems as well. So what we did is we took a peer-reviewed study, EMSIMS out of Canada, and 3 physicians had developed a, developed a case, again, that's basically here to screen a suspected coronavirus patient that progresses all the way from initial signs and symptoms to respiratory failure and requires intubation. So the case was designed in January, so you can see that they were out in front of this just a little bit, right when it started to get a toehold in the Americas and such. But 3 physicians get together to produce a peer-reviewed article, and this is what we can work from as well. So again, the example is how fast do we have to work in front of some of these things? And because of the COVID-19 basis, we had to be prepared with something to give folks to be able to do the screening. The phase 2 and phase 3 dealt with the actual treatment of the patients, first from an emergency standpoint, and then a little bit more in terms of extended care with ventilators and things of that nature. So all of those elements, all those scenarios, all those files are on our COVID-19 resource page and available to the public for free as well. So again, mine was simply to make sure that we could actually screen, assess the patients, understand what to do with them, protect ourselves, protect our patients in terms of the proper PPE and such. And this is what we built it from. So the educational goal set aside from the peer-reviewed article, you can read that as well. It's just personal and team safety and in response to the potentially lethal airborne respiratory illness requiring PPE. Medical and crew resource management objectives. Again, communication is always going to be a cornerstone of CRM. Mitigating exposure, mitigating personal risks, again, by PPE, and then conducting high acuity clinical care inside of those environments that may limit our space and personnel just because they're negative pressure rooms and things of that nature. So those were the educational objectives put forth by the actual article itself. And like I said, we don't dream this stuff up. We have to take it from very well-researched, again, peer-reviewed and cited information. We can potentially build pretty much anything for you. So here's the case flow. This is the way that they intended it. And again, you as instructors, when you take a look at the case flow in this respect, can, we can look at this and go, I can use some of this. I may not use all of it. But again, the information I'm looking at is validated and produced, again, by a group that has peer-reviewed this information. So the other part of this is when you take a look at the case flow, you may not all agree 100% with it. And remember, that's one of the gifts of simulation as well, is you can take these files and you can run them pretty much the way that you want them. So even though we have a baseline or a foundation of operations here, you can always feel free to kind of do this the way that you want. That's entirely up to you and the license that any instructor or operator has with this information. So with the case flow in this for this patient, we started out first with a standardized patient. This is a 35-year-old woman who has a high-risk travel history. She's febrile, she has a runny nose, and she, again, screens positive for the potential exposure due to the fever, respiratory symptoms, and the travel history. So she has no real medical history, takes acetaminophen, ibuprofen as needed. Once we get her screened and once we figure out that she is a risk, then what we do is transfer this patient to a mannequin or replace the person with a mannequin, because now we're going to have to start the treatment elements as well. So that, again, that's the point of the actual case flow. So what you're looking at here is these are the vital signs and the case progression provided by the article that we have to build with. And again, to illustrate this, we have to just take this information, we have to put it into your SimPad, we have to put it into your LEAP computer in order for your mannequins to emulate whatever the article basically told us to do. I'm going to demonstrate that in a couple of minutes, but what I have to do is I have to kind of separate all of the patient states or the potential patient states and make this progress according to the article. So over to the left-hand side here, when you see anything bold, the first one is triage, standardized patient, vital signs, and presentation. We're going to create a patient state for a mannequin, or a patient state that's going to emulate whatever the article or whatever the research tells us to do. That will transfer to an initial assessment. We just label the state initial assessment because, again, that's the information that we're given. So if you can kind of step aside for this and think about, well, a physician group actually produced this for us so that we programmed it into a LEAP platform and a SimPad. Could you essentially give us the same orders yourselves? Could an instructor tell one of our educators at Laerdal, I would really like a patient to step into my, or a patient that would present to my learners with this set of vital signs or this kind of patient state, and I'd like it to progress this way and this way. And the answer to that question is absolutely. We can take anything that you're thinking in terms of a simulation, and we can create a file for it that's going to run with your SimPad or your LEAP platform to control your mannequin the way that you want it to. This can be done your way. So again, I'm just illustrating from the standpoint of a group of physicians that we took the information from, and again, created the simulations for the world, and hopefully splash these out so folks could at least have a little bit of help in terms of the front lines with this circumstance. So we have patient states of an initial assessment. You can see respiratory rates, you can see oxygen saturation levels, patient state for intubation. Once the patient is intubated, we have a decision on what to do with the patient, where we're going to move that. Once the patient has been moved to a site, then we have an exposure management, which really starts the beginning of the debriefing. What are we supposed to do now that we've been possibly exposed to the case? And that's pretty much the end of the simulation itself here, afforded by the physician. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step over to my LEAP interface here, and I'm going to show you exactly what this is going to look like. Pardon me, from the scenario perspective, and I'll show you from two different perspectives what the patient monitor is going to look like when the learner steps into the sim suite as well, and then essentially how this was designed to operate. And again, this one works just a little bit different than some of the other ones that are out there, because again, our orders were as the orders were. So those of you who have operated a LEAP platform before are familiar with this screen, and those of you who do not have access to this will be relatively informative in terms of the ease of operations. So those of you with the foundational knowledge of this is just essentially the screen that we have to operate from that controls all elements of the SimMan 3G. And this can be daunting for some folks to run. So what we did is we buried over here in the left-hand side, if you can see my cursor, way over here to where all these elements are here, and we call this the event menu. And events to the Laerdal personnel are simply what the learners do during the course of the simulation. And you can see that these are all elements on the left-hand side that were designed by the peer-reviewed article, subsequently from the folks who wrote the simulation. So once we get the travel history, then we get a pop-up here that lets us know a little bit of information that says this patient returned 2 days ago from an area that was suspect. In this case, it was China. She's too weak to walk. When she's placed in the negative pressure room, then we have the learner step to the mannequin bedside. I tell that okay, and off we go. So my short description of this is the entire simulation can be operated from this menu. All the secrets have been pushed into this area itself. So once the learner obtains vital signs, we click on the bar, and it's going to tell us a little bit later that this was actually done in about 1:22 seconds. We apply protective equipment to the patient. We move them to the negative pressure room. And if you watch my cursor, I'm just going to take it all the way down here to the right at the bottom. It's keeping track of when those elements occurred. These are the behaviors, the interventions that the learners performed. Again, I'm going to move down that list as time goes on. Now, if you notice over here to the left-hand side, I have a category of events called simulation resources. And these things just give you the information that you see underneath of it. In other words, if a physician ordered a chest x-ray, all we have to do is just touch that button and up pops our chest x-ray, and you can kind of see what's going on here. Now, again, some of you don't have students that are going to look at these, but it's still interesting to note. And again, it's a good example of what can actually be performed at the bedside with the simulator. If I want a point of care ultrasound, and this is just going to illustrate this as well, you can see how this is movement based and whatnot. So the realities and the fidelity are absolutely off the chart in terms of what it is that we can ask this equipment to do, okay? If I want the patient to cough, and you may or may not be able to hear this based on how we're set up right now, But if I want that patient to cough, all I have to do is click that button and off she goes, okay? So with that, I'm just gonna progress through all the other elements that the learner can perform, called respiratory therapy, prepare for intubation, and then finally intubate. And you can see how we kind of automatically move to the next set of events that are in the disclosure options. Once we have treated the patient, what will we do? We'll continue fluid boluses, post-intubation care, sedate as needed, call the ICU. And once we do that, we can talk about our post-exposure management potentials as well. So we have a debriefing tool for you that's built in. And as you see, the patient continues to progress as it's been asked to by those patient states that I performed just a little bit earlier. So just to make sure that I keep with time here, and I just want to make sure that I splash this up. And again, we'll make sure that you have access to these simulation resources. Everything that was used in this case in terms of that X-ray, there's more ECG information in there, ultrasound, the props. There's a wonderful prop that the physicians used to make this mannequin sneeze. It's really gross, but by the same token, it's pretty impactful and it does what it's intended to do. So that's actually a quick video and an article that could show you how to do that with your mannequin and still maintain the laws of warranties and things of that nature. I've also put down in terms of the references, all the information that we use to put this together, just again on the front lines of this. And just to kind of put this in a capsule before I hand this off to Karen, just to let you know that this all it had to take about less than 24 hours for us to develop this. So we took the article. Of course, it took a little bit of time to burn the midnight oil to get things where it needed to be, but we were able to produce these scenarios and get them to the public in less than 24 hours. So think in terms of your curriculum or your needs at the clinical setting, this would be one of those elements that we could work relatively quickly to help you in a circumstance if you needed these things relatively fast. And again, the last carrot that I'm going to dangle with this is you don't just need us. We can show you how to do this yourself. So this would be something that you obviously could learn to do on your own as well. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my share here and get back to the phones and turn this over to Miss Karen Howard, my colleague in education. So Karen, I think this could belong to you. Perhaps. Karen, are you there?
I'm here. Let me start my video and see if I can share my screen. I still see you up, Kelly, your name, Kelly McKeever. Can you make your screen go away, Kelly? Kelly, are you still there?
Yeah, I've stopped the share. It should you should be able to have the icon at the bottom that says share screen.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't see her.
I've clicked it, but I'm still seeing your name, Kelly, on my choices. And I am not able to share my screen. Okay, just give me just a second here and let me try again. Got my camera on, and now I see Cynthia Lancaster's name. So Cynthia, if you accidentally clicked share screen, could you unshare your screen?
I did not. You're going now, though.
Okay, hold on just a second. Give me just a second here to, there's always technical fun things to do.
I know. We see your screen now.
Okay, let's pull up SimPad. So what I'm going to show you is how to use the same scenario, but this time we wrote it in theme in manual mode. So I'm going to show you how to use it on the SimPad. Then I'll talk to you about how to transfer it from your desktop after you save it to your SimPad. So what I want to walk through is the same scenario, the 35-year-old female that came in with symptoms, and this is going to be a theme in manual mode on your SimPad. I'll click manual mode once I turn my SimPad on. And then all my list of themes are here, and I've already put the COVID theme on here, so I'll choose that. Once I select the theme I want to run, the next screen allows me to
Karen,
put it in.
We aren't
Yes.
seeing your
we're not seeing your
screen.
SimPad. We're seeing your slide. There you go.
Okay. All right. So let me back up. And in this, now you're seeing my SimPad?
Yes.
Okay. So I clicked on manual mode, and from manual mode, I'm choosing the COVID scenario or theme that I have already put on my SimPad. The next screen that appears will allow you to put in your instructor or facilitator's name, the participants, and maybe the roles that they play. You can add as many as you need. And if you want to videotape, and this is talking about being back into the lab where you can videotape sessions, you could use your debriefing server here. I'll click OK, and I will click Start. So I'm running a theme called the Suspected COVID-19, and I am in manual mode. Inside this theme, I have 4 states. There's the initial triage state, and this state has sinus rhythm at 140, which makes it sinus tach, an SpO2 of 90, respiratory of 22, blood pressure 101/59. So your state called triage is connected to these vital signs. When I want to change to another state, I tap on that state, and if I want to see what is contained in that state, I simply hit the down arrow. It expands the state, and I can see that over 1 minute, the current vital signs will change to the initial assessment vital signs when I hit activate. So now that I've hit activate, you can see that the vital signs are changing. And we'll let those change while we talk about this blue gloved hand in the bottom right-hand corner. When you tap on the blue gloved hand, this is where you come up with, as Kelly called them, interventions or events that you are going to document for the learner. So if you see the learners put on their PPE, you give them credit for it. When they take vital signs, you give them credit, and it logs that they took vital signs at 1 minute and 40 seconds into the scenario. If they contact infection control and let them know they have a possible COVID case, you document that. So each of these blocks is called a category, and each category has different interventions. When I want the patient's state to change, I have to go back. So from the list of interventions, upper left-hand corner, I go back, and this is where I can change the state. Now, if you're teaching in a nursing school, you're not necessarily going to intubate, but so you may only use the first 2 states. You may want your learners to don their PPE, go in, introduce themselves, identify the patient, assess the patient, maybe turn the patient, give medications, and then maybe they're in the room for 1.5 hours doing all of these tasks that they need to do, and they assess the patient again before they leave. You can activate this initial assessment where the vital signs change, and then they assess the patient and get different vital signs. So these states can be used once, twice. You can skip a state. I'll go to disposition, and I'm going to skip intubation and see that the vital signs immediately changed because there was no timer set. So the whole process for using this theme would be to prep your learners with a story, give them a pre-briefing. You are taking care of a patient who is a 35-year-old female who just returned from China. For the last 2 days, she's had fever, a runny nose, aches. She has not felt well. She's extremely weak, and she's unable to walk. You can even enhance the scenario with nursing students by saying, your patient has been admitted to room 205. Please prepare yourself to care for this COVID-19 patient. So they would don their PPE, go in and assess the patient. Under the blue gloved hand, if you want to make additional notes, maybe something's not listed here that you want to make a note of, you have a keyboard where you can log in an intervention. Hand hygiene completed. You can do rights of med admin followed. So if you adapt or enhance this theme and you're including medication administration to a patient with COVID-19, you have the ability to add comments in, and that's from the blue gloved hand screen and the keyboard. So again, we're in manual mode. We're running a theme, and this is just one of the COVID themes that's available on the Scenario Cloud for you. I think there are 3 that we've written that are available for free. The thing I like about themes the most is the flexibility of them. So just like I've got this pulled up on my computer and doing a Zoom meeting with you, it's possible to reflect your SimPad on the screen and do a Zoom meeting with your students and give them a story and talk about, what do you think about this heart rate? What can be causing that heart rate? Well, it may be your temperature. It may be that she's septic, right? What do I need to do about this blood pressure? Okay. So you can go through and have learners define what they think they should do and not even go to the blue gloved hand. So if someone says, well, I would put my PPE on, and then let's talk through that. What are the steps of applying PPE? We're going to do hand hygiene. That's great, Judy. Joe, tell me what you would do next after hand hygiene. I would put on a gown and a mask and goggles. Great. And then what would you do? I'd put my gloves on. Oh, you know what? I missed that. I should put my gloves on and then my gown so that my, no, that's not right either. I should put my gown on, then my gloves, so my gloves are over the wrist band of my gown. That's how I would do it. Okay, that's good, Joe. So say that in order again, the exact way you should go through this. So I'm using this theme not directly in front of students, but I am displaying it for them and talking through a case scenario. And as you're teaching remotely, which we've had to learn to do, and I don't call it necessarily online learning in this environment because we're teaching in a different way and it's more remote teaching. But this is a perfect example of being able to use a theme with a group of students in a Zoom meeting or webinar and talk through what is suspect about the patient's story. How do I treat this patient? What should I do? What precautions should I take? I have 6 people that want to go into the room. Is that right? Or do I need to limit people? And why do I need to limit personnel going in the room? And how do I make plans when I go in and do patient care? I need to take everything I need to do, whether it's a bed bath and medication administration and hanging a new IV, or I know in 2 hours or an hour and a half her IV bag is going to run out. So when I'm going in, I'm going to take everything with me. So this is a sample of how you can use the scenario. And just because it's labeled COVID, you don't necessarily have to use this for a COVID patient. It could be a patient with a suspected respiratory infection that maybe even tuberculosis. Change the x-ray, pull an x-ray up that shows tuberculosis, and they're febrile and they're tachycardic and their chest x-ray looks abnormal. So take what we're providing for you and use them beyond COVID. Okay, any questions? Put them in the chat and we'll go
Yes.
back to this.
I'm sorry, could I
it's
ask a question?
Sure. Go right ahead.
Hang on. Okay. My name is Pam DiMatteo, and I'm a nurse over at the Lone Star College in Houston, Texas. And I just wondered, you've mentioned once or twice now about a negative pressure room. I just wondered where that recommendation came from with regard to COVID-19 patients.
So I think hospitals, that's where they're putting their patients first in a negative pressure room. Of course, most hospitals don't have but a few of those. Some people are not doing negative pressure simply because they don't have any more negative pressure.
Well, plus COVID-19 is not a airborne disease yet. It's
Okay.
a droplet disease. So
Okay.
I was just curious.
Mhm.
I don't mean to be contrary. I'm just
No,
curious
that's okay.
as to why the suggestion of a negative pressure room, when that really would probably be more appropriate for a smallpox or measles or tuberculosis,
Right.
which are extremely contagious and airborne. I just wondered where that recommation could be cited.
And
Because I think
I can't
maybe-
cite an article. It's just what I've read and listened to. I've listened to so many webinars I'm sure all of us have over the last few weeks. And
Sure,
I've
sure.
heard that repeatedly, but again, I can't cite that in a reference.
Okay,
And thank you for that
I was just
input.
curious.
I appreciate that.
Karen,
Yes, ma'am. I just was
can I
curious.
respond? I think I
Sure.
have her answer.
Mhm.
I think they put them in a negative pressure room when there's a risk of aerosolizing the virus with high flow nasal cannula, non-rebreather, BiPAP, or high risk procedures like intubation or breathing treatments, because then it can
Okay.
become aerosolized.
Yeah, that's not what I've read. That's why I wondered. That's
Yeah.
why I asked the question. But thanks. Okay.
Sure. So I'm going to move on and show you. Can you see my slide that says Laerdal Scenario Cloud? Kelly, do you see the scenario library slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
we do.
thank you. I just want to check. And so the scenario cloud, we used to call our scenario library SimStore, but we've changed it over and now it's more of a cloud format. So the name changed to the scenario cloud. And on the scenario cloud, you can register and sign in. And this is where you're going to find your free COVID scenarios, and you can see some of them listed here. Okay. Once you download them, I just saved one on my desktop here as an example. And then the next thing I did, since my scenario is on my desktop, I took my SimPad and I connected it to my computer. And there is a USB cable that comes with every SimPad. There's a mini end that goes into the bottom of the SimPad, and then the regular end goes into a USB connection on your computer. Once you have your SimPad turned on and connected, it actually opens. So I'm going to move over here and show you a bigger picture. This is what it looks like when it opens on your computer. So you're looking inside your SimPad, and it shows you here. This is your SimPad. And then inside your SimPad, there are some folders. There's a folder for logs, there's a folder for scenarios, and there's a folder for themes. So I will double click over this and open the themes folder. So now I'm looking inside my themes folder, and all I did was drag my COVID scenario into my themes folder. So very simple directions. You're welcome to these. I think there's slides that are going to go out to everyone. It's a little bit different with the scenario into Leap. but we can get you directions for that too. It's just as simple as this is. If you've ever taken pictures off of your phone and put them on your computer, it's the same concept. I'm just taking something off my computer and putting it on my SimPad. Okay. Any specific questions, Denise, that we need to answer right now before I turn it over to Rob?
No, ma'am. We're going to answer all the questions towards the end. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Over to you, Rob.
All right, well, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, well, thanks. Well, my name is Rob Kerr. I'm a client executive. I cover the state of Missouri and Southern Illinois. And as Karen was just saying, I'm gonna go in a little deeper and talk to you guys a little bit about Scenario Cloud. But we're gonna start with a quick poll question relating to Scenario Cloud. Give everybody a few seconds to get this and we'll see what the results are. How are we looking there, Denise? Are we ready to? All right, perfect. So we can see here the results. So it looks like 26% use program scenarios that you create on your own, 34% use pre-programmed scenarios through the Sim Store. I don't use pre-programmed scenarios and just use manual mode, 32%. So we got a pretty good mix. I would like to start using more. So what I'm going to talk about next, which is the Scenario Cloud. Let me get over here and share my screen. So I'm seeing a bunch of other stuff that's not mine. Now, are you guys seeing my screen now?
No.
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 So when I go, same thing I think was just happening to Karen. When I go to share, I don't have what I want up. Let me try to start my video. Let's see if it shows it.
There's Karen.
Now we're seeing your Zoom meeting on the screen.
Yes, I was just trying to see if I shared something, if that was going to bring something up here. So let me see here.
Now your
I wish I
email.
could tell you what I did, Rob, to fix mine. I just kept messing with it.
Yeah, well, the same thing's happening to me here where I am not seeing the, are you guys seeing anything with my screens?
Yes, your computer screen and your Outlook.
Oh, okay. So that is actually showing. Okay, so that's good news. So now are you seeing my presentation?
Yes, we are.
Okay, well now I do know how I did. I just hit that share button. So, okay. So as I was saying, I'm going to talk a little bit about Scenario Cloud today. So on this first screen, you're going to see a free trial. And I'm going to jump this down here real quick. So everybody on this call should be grouped into one of these three categories. You should either be somebody who's never used SimStore before and maybe don't even know what SimStore is. Somebody who's used SimStore, signed up for an account, but you never actually really got into utilizing SimStore and you never purchased any scenarios and don't have any content on your SimStore account. And then the third is going to be your, you have a SimStore account, you utilize scenarios, and you've actually purchased scenarios and have some on there. And from our poll question we just did, it looks like we've got a good variety of all three of these groups. So the good news is that for all three of these groups to get started, the first thing you're going to do is either you can go to our website and type in Scenario Cloud and it'll take you right to the page, or there's also this link here at the bottom of this page here that you can put in and it'll take you straight to the page for the free trial. Everything will be the same except for this third group. So the third group here that has a SimStore account and actually has content on your SimStore account, you'll need to do one extra step. you will have to call up our Scenario Cloud support, and here's the number. And you just need to let them know that you have an existing SimStore account with content, and what they'll do is they'll merge that content over to your account. So you will have whatever content that you had previously will be now onto your Scenario Cloud. And let me jump back here so you can see here. So what the page is going to look like that you go to, you're going to see this nice big free tab here. So this is the first place you start, is start your free trial. And this is where they're just going to have you sign up using your email and put in a password. On this page, though, you can also do a little bit of exploring. So you do have your scenario library, which by clicking that will give you an example of all the scenarios that we have within the Scenario Cloud. There are some, and we'll talk a little bit about this down the road, there are some different, click here and you can see the difference on the plans and the pricing. And then our last one over here is where you can, sorry, I got something covered up, where you can go in and you can sign in. So the nice thing about this is that you can, from any computer at home or anything like that, you can sign into your Scenario Cloud and you can go through and look through the scenario library and find out what scenarios you might want to use. And then as I go farther on in my presentation, I'll show you how it syncs with your actual either SimPad or your Leap computer that you're running. So one thing too to mention, so start this free trial. The idea behind this free trial, and a lot of you should have received a mass message from us telling you about Scenario Cloud and this free trial. Well, we started this free trial March 1st, which was an absolute terrible time to start anything as the COVID-19 hit and everybody kind of had to scramble and most people were not even in their labs and everything. So we are looking to extend this, but just to let you know that free trial right now does start from March and ends in June. So as of right now, that's the plan, but I have a feeling we're going to extend that out a little bit. So don't be concerned if you didn't, you're not just getting to it now. So a couple things, just some Scenario Cloud key values I want to talk about. So it's going to provide access to high quality, validated content that is easy to find. You're also going to be able to build your confidence on here. So you can overcome some of the biggest technical barriers. With SimStore, it was a little more challenging to find scenarios, put them onto your device and everything. This is going to be a much more seamless flow of being able to do that. And then it's also going to hopefully encourage scenario adoption from day one, where you can have all of this content with intuitive scenarios, your supporting articles, as debriefing questions, everything that's involved with this. Next, anybody that's familiar with the SimStore, it's going to be very similar in terms of the content that's there. We're still going to have our hundreds of clinical scenarios that are going to be available there with our partners like American Academy of Pediatrics, American Heart Association, the Gordon Center, National League of Nursing, and then some of our partners like AsanoSim. So you're still going to have access to all of those great contents. And then one thing we've improved here is it's going to be a little easier to work between accounts. So if you have multiple accounts, if you have multiple people you're wanting to work together, this should be a little more seamless. And as you can see in this statement too, we're going to continue to develop it, and we're going to try to even improve that collaboration in future updates to the software. And then finally, kind of what I mentioned there, easy. This is going to be much easier to utilize. In the past, for those of you that are familiar with SimStore, we had to, first of all, register all of our devices on the SimStore that you were going to utilize. And then if you had a scenario you wanted to use, you had to allocate it to that specific device. Well, all that's gone away. So once you sign into your Scenario Cloud account, it will automatically know what scenarios you want to utilize and what scenarios you have access to. And you could even have 5 different devices running, signed in by 5 different Scenario Clouds, and you could run all 5 of those, where in the past we had to release individuals, or you had to buy 2 or 3 of the same scenarios in order to run them all at the same time. So next, talking a little bit about the different access levels. So first of all, we're going to have a free level. So as soon as you sign up for this free trial, and it could be a little confusing at first, you're going to get access to everything. But after the trial is over, you're going to remain to have access to all of our free content. And there are going to be, right now, there are 24 free scenarios that are on there right now. And these scenarios are typically will be related to specific simulators. We have provided these scenarios to help understand the full value of the relevant patient simulators. This is also where we can add free scenarios when we release new simulators, or even an event like the COVID-19, where as you guys saw from the previous presentations, that we're able to go in there and offer a free scenario on this as well. These will all be, as you kind of can see across the top on these ones to the right, they'll all be with a key across here saying starter. So those will always be free. The next is we will have a professional level, and this will be a subscription, a yearly subscription that we're going to set up. I'm going to let you guys talk to your client executives to talk about the specifics on price and everything, but it is going to be a yearly subscription if that's what you want to do, and there will be different price ranges depending on the number of users that you have. Next, something that's kind of nice, as soon as you sign into your account, you're going to see on the right side, you're going to see your name, and there'll be a little drop down if you click on that, and under there is a help bar. There's going to be a couple nice things there. One is the onboarding to Laerdal Scenario Cloud, and this is something that we haven't had in the past with Sims or anything, but this is really just a nice brief run through of welcome to Scenario Cloud, how it works, and then it kind of runs it through an overview, prepare, simulate, and then a debrief. So it just is kind of a nice little brief thing to show you how the Scenario Cloud is designed to be used with your simulations. Next, we're ready to kind of get started with your Scenario Cloud itself. So now you've created yourself an account and you've signed in. Well, the first thing you'll see is a scenario library. And on that scenario library, you can either go in and just search a keyword, or you can go down there and there's all these different filters like medical specialties, nursing specialties. And as you click on these, you can drop down and you get different categories within there. Once you've selected a scenario that you think you might want to utilize, you can go over and you can explore it. And this is where it will give you all the information, the objectives, depending on what type of scenario it is and all that. Once you've decided that you like the scenario, you can select, I want to move this to My Scenarios. And then on your list here, it will be underneath your My Scenarios and pulled out of the library. And then at that time, whenever you connect to any of your devices, like a SimPad or a Leap device, it will be automatically synchronized. I'm going to go over and talk a little bit about the operation side of things. So the first thing, and I saw a couple questions on there on the chat room about how you get your scenarios over. Well, the first thing you do have to do is you have to be, all of your Leap devices have to be on our new version of software 7.0. Again, as I stated earlier, that it's nice when you go and you sign into your account on that upper right-hand side where your name is. If you click on that, you'll see this help key right here. And it'll also, so those of you who are not familiar or not sure how to update your software, there are 2 tutorial videos that will walk you through whether it's a SimPad or whether it's a Leap laptop that you're going to be updating from. Once you have your devices updated, then you're going to see something like this. So on your SimPad, you're going to see a Scenario Cloud icon on that lower left. And then on your Leap instructor laptop, if you go all the way to the far right, and it's going to replace where the SimStore tab was, you'll see Scenario Cloud as well. Once you get that, you sign in with your username and your password. And then once you sign in, everything, like we said, will be automatically synced to that device. So they'll transfer the selected scenarios from your general library into My Scenarios. Once you've done that, you can use your personal login to log in. While you're signed in, it'll automatically be synchronized. And now you can go over and you can connect to the simulator you want to use. And once you go into that auto mode, you will have those scenarios accessible to be able to choose. Sorry, I jumped a slide here. So that being said, we talked about at the end of this, we're going to try to answer as many questions as you have. So if you have any questions, continue to put those into the chat box. And I'm going to end the Scenario Cloud part with our final poll question. Okay, so good. It looks like I did a good enough job here, so everybody's kind of understanding at least how to get in and get started with your free trial. I do see that we also have some people that would like to hear some more information on this. So definitely we'll be reaching out to you guys, and then also too, feel free to reach out to your client executives and your account managers. I know in my territory, I've done a lot of just calls with individual accounts where we kind of walk through this in their specific account, and we're able to go a little bit deeper and everything on that. So hopefully that is helpful, and everybody's ready to get started with utilizing the new Scenario Cloud platform. The next thing, I'm going to talk just real briefly about the CARES Act, and more or less just to inform everybody some things that we have found out through other accounts and everything. So as everybody hopefully is aware, the CARES Act has been passing funds to all of your schools, and you should either be receiving those now or have already received those. So what we're kind of recommending, if there's anything that you guys are really hoping to be able to budget for in terms of your simulation use, a lot of these are qualifying under these CARES Act. So, reach out to your procurement offices, your presidents, find out if there's a way you can get in line for some of this funding for some needs that you have. We have had accounts across the country that have successfully been able to access some of this funding for simulation needs. Also too, the client executives, we're all here for you guys. If you guys need a proposal on anything and you want to be able to get that in line for any of this, we're here to help you guys out on that. So with that being said, I appreciate your time, and I am going to release them, see if I can figure out how to release this from stop sharing. And I'm going to hand this over to Brett Miller.
All right, I will share my screen here. See if we get lucky. All right, can you guys see that?
Yes, you did it right.
All right, great. My name is Brett Miller. I'm with Laerdal, and I cover Colorado and Wyoming. And we've had a lot of customers ask us, during COVID here, and when we get back more to hopefully doing simulation, how we can kind of take cleaning and disinfection of the mannequins and equipment to the next level for safety during COVID. So of course, in the past, soap and water has always been our tried and true method. But to increase that level, we've got a few options that really weren't maybe used or needed much before this. And so these are approved. Isopropyl alcohol, 70% concentration can be used, either misting it on or wiping it on. Both Clorox or Lysol wipes can be used to disinfect your equipment. The caveat with that is from our product manager, was to make sure to remove the clothing until fully dry, because sometimes you can get some color transfer from the clothing to the mannequin, which could be difficult to remove. So just beware of that. And then also a Purell brand or a generic brand of wipes or Cavi wipes can also be used for disinfection of the mannequins and equipment. So we just kind of wanted to cover that. It's also on our Laerdal home web page, which I'm going to cover here in a minute, with our COVID-19 resources. So you can pull up any of this information there as well. And we do want to avoid anything that, if you've got other cleaners, for example, that lists kerosene or other fossil fuels as an ingredient, there's a good chance that could eat through the plastic. But if you are unsure, or you have another type of product and you're just unsure, please give our Laerdal tech support a call, an email, or your client executive or account manager. We will get the answer for you for that particular product. And as always, we've talked about in the past is using, as an extra precaution, you could always test whatever it is you want to use in a small, inconspicuous area of the mannequin, just if that gives you a little bit more peace of mind. But the products we've talked about on the last slide for cleaning are approved to use. And then on the COVID-19 Resource Center, if you just go to lairdall.com, our homepage, it's the front and center, right on the front homepage. You don't have to hunt or search for it or anything. And when you click in that Resource Center, I think you'll find a wealth of tools and knowledge that you can use to further your simulation goals from, as we've talked about, complementary scenarios for download, webinars, virtual case simulations, cleaning and hygiene we just talked about, preparedness checklists, research and helpful links, respiratory care training for COVID-19 and e-learning solutions and more. There's really a lot of great content on there. So again, just lairdall.com, and right on the homepage, you'll see the link for the resource. I think you'll find there's a lot of useful information in there for you and your team. And lastly, I think we've got one final poll question here, Denise will pull up for us. And we would like to get your feedback on what would you like to see covered in future webinars that we will be conducting. We would like the content to come, come from you guys and get your feedback. And we'd like to, in the future, maybe have some customer guest speakers and kind of take this to the next level and have this be a good resource, especially during these times. So you can select more than one. There's plenty to select from there. And the last one is other. And if you have something that's not on this list that you would like covered, if you would like to type it into the chat box, that way we can record those topics that you don't see on the list here that you can select from. And again, you can select multiple that you think would be helpful, or chat in anything else you would like covered. So we'll give this one a little bit of time so people can really kind of think about it and review it or type in anything they want. All right, Denise, our responses coming in? All right. Looks like we've got some really good feedback here on topics to cover in the future. And again, if you have something that wasn't on there, type it in the chat box so that we can capture that, so that as we schedule more of these in the future, we can cover content that is most relevant to you guys. And with that, I think our next section here, we are going to open up our question and answer session. And we will start answering questions on the chat to try to get caught up with those. Feel free to stick with us for as long as you'd like. We don't, we've got plenty of time here for questions and want to make sure people get their questions answered.
So hi, this is Denise, and I have been monitoring a lot of the chat questions, a lot of great questions. I am going to give it back to Rob because it seems like there was a lot of questions about Scenario Cloud. I did send him a couple of questions. He did address the trial period would end, but we are going to work on that to see if we can get that extended. A lot of questions about, will I have access to my old scenarios, multiple locations? So Rob, if you could answer some of those to the Scenario Cloud.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help. So I saw a few too on SimStore to Scenario Cloud. So again, like I said, I kind of grouped you guys into 3 groups. The first place everybody should still start is go to that free trial. So you will not be able to utilize your SimStore account on the Scenario Cloud. So whoever you are out there, just everybody, we want to go start your free trial first and get signed up for a Scenario Cloud account. And then like I mentioned, if you actually have an account with content on it, then that's where you need to take that extra step and call into our support, and they will then tie you into your account so that those scenarios will then tie it over to you. So it's going to be a very different platform than what it was on SimStore. If you guys remember, you guys had to sign in your name, but you also had to be affiliated with your account. Well, that is no longer going to be the case. So you do have to go ahead and sign in for a Scenario Cloud. That being said, also, I saw one question on there with points. If anybody has any points, again, that's a good place to get together with your client executive or account manager and kind of discuss that. But we're actually converting those points into free time on the Scenario Cloud. So depending on the number of points, we do have a system set up for that as well. A couple other questions. I think somebody was saying how to, download the scenarios and everything, SimPad. Again, it's just going to be as soon as you sign up for an account, you have to be on that 7.0 software. So until you get on that 7.0 software, you will not have access to these scenarios on your outside of just your own account that you can do on any computer. But to actually run it on your scenarios, you will have to go ahead and get to 7.0. Once you get to there, then as soon as you sign in, it will automatically sync whatever you have selected to put underneath your My Scenarios, and you will have that there. Denise, what other, am I missing another question that was pertinent on the Scenario Cloud?
It says, can we have an account for just free simulations that we can use individually, or do we have to go through the college account?
So if I'm understanding that correctly, if they have scenarios they already have on their college account through SimStore, just like I just said, you're going to have to go ahead and sign up for the Scenario Cloud and then get us to merge those accounts together. But then this free version, and I mentioned there's 24 right now. Hopefully that will continue to grow. On the free version, you'll always have those through your Scenario Cloud. And again, the way I just explained it, how you access your Scenario Cloud and access your scenarios will be the same. So you'll always have those free scenarios. It will be a little confusing when you first join this free trial because you will have access to everything. But as I mentioned earlier, it'll say starter across the top. So you'll know those are your freebies. The other ones are ones you're just kind of trialing out. And once the free trial goes away, those will actually go away unless you decide to go with an actual subscription to the accounts. Another thing, I know there's a question on different users and everything. Again, I would like you guys just to talk to your client executives, and all you guys have individual situations, but we are set up in terms of numbers, and that's a good conversation to have in terms of how people are going to be utilizing the Scenario Cloud, and that'll make a difference on how you, what type of subscription level you need. So again, with the subscription and all that kind of stuff, I would definitely recommend just talk to your client executive and walk through your individual situations, and also find out if you have any credit. Make sure all those scenarios get transferred over. Anything I'm missing, Denise?
Yes, we have one that says, whoop, I keep moving around on me here. Does the Scenario Cloud paid subscription also include all access to content? And that, of course, the answer is yes to that.
Yes.
So yeah, you will have access.
Yeah, so again, once you guys sign up for this and for time purposes and jumping around and stuff, you'll see that there's a lot more detail to each account. But for those of you that are familiar with the SimStore, when you purchase a scenario, let's say from like the National League of Nursing, well, you get a lot of content with that besides just the scenario itself, including, even your debriefing questions and everything along the line. So yes, with the professional level, you would get all that information to your access. Everything that's on our Scenario Cloud you'll have access to.
And so another question was, so will we still have access to our old scenarios when the trial is over? If they don't buy a subscription, will they still have access to their old scenarios?
So yeah, so that's when you sign up, when you go to the free trial and sign up with a Scenario Cloud account, when you call into our customer service for Scenario Cloud, they will merge your account over to Scenario Cloud. So anything you've purchased in the past will be in your account for good, even when this trial is over. Those are ones you own. So you will have everything from your SimStore account will be moved over to your Scenario Cloud account, and anybody associated with that account will have access to those.
So another one is SimStore, we are done with SimStore. So they actually said, when does SimStore access end? And we've already ended.
Yeah, it actually should have already ended. I can't guarantee that nobody hasn't found a way to get access to it, but it actually is supposed to have ended as of March 1st. So.
And I do have a couple of questions. I know we had some conversation about the COVID scenarios earlier, Now, you realize that, mostly all of our scenarios that can be adjusted. So per your facilities protocol, they can be adjusted. So I know there was quite a bit of talking back and forth about the scenario that we were providing and the ones that are on. Some of them are editable, so you can actually tweak those as needed.
Yeah, pretty much everything just like SimStore on the Scenario Cloud, or just like they used to be, where you can modify them and make them your own.
Yeah. And also, just to make sure, we are going to supply the slides for everybody, so you will have those. Get with your client executive. We'll be happy to go over all of this more in detail. Someone did ask, we would love to see simulator maintenance class. I did ask Kelly McKeever. That is something that we can do. We haven't offered it yet, but with virtual classes, I say that we can, depending on what you're wanting, and we will have that discussion and see if we can do that. And then also another one asked, will I get a copy of the scenario? It's and it is on the Scenario Cloud. So it is one of the free scenarios that it's available there. We got 5 new ones. Just a minute. Oh, so this is something that I'll have to ask. They're asking now that they're already on Scenario Cloud. Is there any way that we can get the ones specific for Australia off of the list, because we cannot use those? So I've kind of asked that question myself. We would need to get to the product manager to find out if we can actually just get ones for the US.
Yeah, we can see if there's maybe a way, like there was in the SimStore, where you could make it where it's, you could eliminate some of those. And then I also too see, so if you've already signed up, if you have a Scenario Cloud username and password, and you can sign in, then you're good. So I did have another question here that said, if I already have transferred over to the Scenario Cloud, then yeah, you're good. The only place that free trial is to access the free trial first of all, and to set up. It's just an easy place to set up a new account. But I would say that if you're not having access to a free trial with everything, then you probably do need to go back there and still access the free trial. But you won't have to set up an account. You'll just sign in.
Correct. And again, I just want to make sure that we will be getting the presentations to you. You will have a copy of all of this. Okay, I think that ends our virtual presentation for today. I want to thank all of you for attending, and we look forward to doing another one in the future. So please let us know if you have any questions. Again, you can contact your account manager or your client executive. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laerdal. We appreciate all you do.